Mike and Tom are registered with Steward Partners Global Advisors. Common Sense Finance with Mike Wiginton and Tom Farrell of HL Wiginton Capital Management, an independent investment and financial planning firm in downtown Jasper. Mike is a chartered financial analyst charter holder, and Tom is a certified financial planner professional. They are here to discuss and give their thoughts on current financial and economic matters. Now, with Common Sense Finance, here are Mike and Tom.
Welcome back to another edition of Common Sense Finance. I'm Tom Farrell. This is Mike Wiginton. From time to time, we get special requests, not really directly special requests for subjects for podcasts, but we have conversations with people. So we're going to call this Conversations with Clients, and of some of the things that I guess maybe come up over and over again, or maybe numerous times. I won't say over and over again, but more than one client we've had these conversations with, and we wanted to share that with you. And we won't name any names. So,
well, and we were talking about this. How do they say it off camera?
Yeah,
I just like saying it. Like I like saying America. Come on, America.
Well, and before we go into your stuff that you're going to do, I would say anybody that has, and we've covered ad nauseum pretty much any financial topic you could think of, and some of them twice. But if you're out there and you're watching this and there's a subject, something that maybe we haven't covered, give Mike a call, shoot him an email, and let him know, and we will, we'll try to accommodate you. If not, maybe there's something that's out there in the archives that, that we can review for you. So anyway.
Well, first of all, I like talking about a wide range of subject matter, especially when it comes to economics, finance, accounting, and so forth. Unfortunately, for a lot of those cases, I would rather keep politics out of it, but it's embedded in it, and you can't. And so I say, look, this is not a political conversation, but the old form, we're about to talk about this, the old forms of economic systems were referred to. I mean, I've got books from the 1700s that were forms of what form of political economy do you have? So the political side is embedded into it. And I was saying to Oliver Stone, that produces this entire program here, that wouldn't you think if people are like wanting to engage in this conversation with you on a regular basis, that they might want to consume a podcast, watch a video podcast that was on and so I'm just guessing they might. And again, a lot of that
it'd be a lot easier on them than actually coming and talking to you.
Listen, I know you mean that in the nicest ways, and
I'm
I
just
take
saying,
it as a compliment.
They can fast forward, they can rewind. I mean, it's
okay.
They can pause you.
So you're on a roll. You want to keep going?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So look, is the government working right? Wouldn't it be better if we did this? And specifically, if we did this or that? And specifically, you've got two sides. This side over here that's about corporate greed. I am paraphrasing the way the conversation is presented to me, the question, the topic's presented to me, and then the what say you, Mike. But, you got the corporate greed, the people that are all pro-business on one side, and then you've got the other side that is, hey, we ought to be taking care of everybody that comes, that asks for anything, and giving people income, whatever income they need, and taking care of them because that's the human way, and all these people that have the resources really should, they should be, if they don't want to, they should be made, to take care of these people. And that's the two sides that are presented. And if you want to call it right and left and whatever, whatever, okay? So I wanted to take, and here are the sources, all right? This compliance, I always try to give a little compliance blurb. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the source. You ready for this? The source is me, all right? Because I'm very educated in economics and studied it for a long time. And what I'm giving you comes right out of the economics textbook. I still have my economics textbooks multiple from the late 80s and early 90s, okay? And so this is basic 101 stuff. And I'm going to give you some economic history of how things worked and to try to bring all this together. So There's three basic forms of political economy, economic systems: communism, socialism, capitalism, whichever way you want to go. Capitalism is about the private ownership of means of productions, factories, businesses, and so forth, privately owned. Communism's on the other scale. It says the government owns it. There is no private ownership of means of production. Okay. Socialism is actually in the middle, and it was communist type people that developed socialism. It says, okay, look, we're going to allow for some private ownership of the means of productions, your factories, your businesses, but the government's going to direct how those private assets are used, all right? And in the beginning, their idea was we're slowly going to creep toward communism because they actually agreed with it, all right? So let's deal with capitalism and stay on capitalism. That'll be better for the conversation, all right? And when you open the door to capitalism, there's these different market sectors have different formats. For example, you've probably heard of monopoly. Monopoly is a sector that's run and owned, if you want to say, run by one entity. That's the term monopoly. You see that with power companies a lot. They'll say, okay, we're going to give you the government, because the government is the only entity that can declare, hey, you can have a monopoly. And they're like, okay, but if you get this, you're going to have to run power out there, even though it's not economical to you, because there's one house out there.
Right.
So, okay, all right. So that's an easy example. Then you have oligopoly. Oligopoly was a market that was defined by like 5, 6, 7, 8 firms, very few. And our old automobile sector in this country was characterized as an oligopoly. And I would say right here, that's a cousin to oligarchy in Russia, where there's just a handful of people that run the whole country. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, you're going to get the oil and gas leases. You're going to get the banking sector. So it's the same sort of idea. Then you have this thing called pure competition, where it was wide open, as many entrants, and really that's the heart and soul of capitalism. That you want more people involved in the system because trying to lend their ideas and apply their efforts and resources, to figure out what does the market want, and we're going to give it to them. Okay, so everybody, capitalism is a door. It only works if you got more and more people involved. Mm-hmm. So the essence of capitalism, this is an important point, because you get into class warfare in a hurry, people don't know what they're talking about. Capitalism is about more come, the more the merrier. It works better. When you get to monopolies and oligopolies, and then, of course, when you start tending toward the other end of the extreme, it's on political economy like socialism, communism, people don't get what they want. Capitalism works the best when, we don't want you broke. We don't want you homeless. We need you in the economy, working, producing, prospering. Okay? It works the best. So I would say, especially every young person is trying to be trained by academia to be woke. Can you say that? Can we say that here? Anyway, that's not, if you're not hearing this, you're hearing it wrong. And I suspect you're hearing it wrong. That's just my opinion. Okay, and I'm a real live person and have a right to have an opinion. Okay, so that's a humongous point, that capitalism is the most inclusive because that's the only way it works. And it should. We've never had pure competition. We've never had real true capitalism in this country according to the textbooks. Okay, and if you look back in history, you see it's true. And they'll say the closest we came to it was the Industrial Revolution of the mid to late 1800s. Okay, all right. And then they'll bring up, yeah, but you were shoving kids in a coal mine, all right? And the rebuttal to that was, nobody was out capturing children. People were hungry, and those people, kids needed to work to help the family live, and the market made a way for those kids to work. And and they weren't out actually to kill kids, but anyway.
Dead kids not very productive.
Dead children are not productive. That's a well-known fact. Okay, so if we look at our system now, well, hold on. So I wanted to define this for this. So the way that the TV and the media defines this left and right about corporate greed and the left, it's really not true. It's not indicative of how historically where we came from or what people wanted and the normal people wanted in this country. I guarantee you there's a group of people in any industry, big industry, whether it's banking, that would like to control it, to be a little oligopoly or a monopoly. Yeah. All right? But that's not capitalism. Mm-mm. That's not capitalism. All right? And think about, CAFE standards, corporate average fuel economy, where the government's saying, hey, you automakers have got to have, I think about like 25 or 26 next year or the year after, and we talked about this before, they said, hey, your fleet average has got to be like 54.5 miles per gallon. We can't get to it. But that's why the automakers have gone to aluminum bodies, trying to increase their fuel mileage. They even talked about Ford talked about using magnesium in their bodies because it was lighter than aluminum, stamped out easier, and would get higher fuel. But magnesium was like 3 times the cost of aluminum, and aluminum's like more than double the cost of steel. So what happens is, and I've always said this, and it's true. Look, get the major point here. The reason it's hard for a common man to afford a brand new vehicle, go out and buy a brand new vehicle, is because of all the government mandates on of how you have to build a vehicle is run the cost of them. That's why. All right? And you can argue whether or not, well, you got to have this or you got to have that. And I remember a guy telling me when I was a kid and just starting my career, and at that time, he was my immediate boss, and he said, well, talking about seat belts, right? And, the cost, all the safety equipment that the government mandates, and what's the cost? What is the cost that's added to the price of a vehicle? Well, and he was, of course, for it. He said, if you got to mandate common sense, well, then so be it. Well, the reality was that guy was about 200 pounds overweight. And I was thinking, well, should the government mandate how many Twinkies that you eat in a day?
Right.
Because you got to mandate common sense, then so be it. And so I'm not being that harsh. That's what I just said. It's a fact. And I, remember thinking that guy will never be able to be in charge. I'll never let him be in charge of my career. That's everything I'm saying there is a true story. I'm not meaning just to be funny. Right. But when you start thinking about what government mandates, you need to think about how personal that might get to you. Mm-hmm. And so last point I'm going to make here is this. And I'm going to wrap it up because I know you like to wrap things up. Historically, if you go back to the early part of the 20th century, the early 1900s, okay? And this was the big point I made to him. I said, because you're mischaracterizing. You're buying into what you're seeing in the media, and it's not true. Go back to the early 1900s. Think about this. All of the great works, the libraries, the charitable works came from the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Schwabs, okay? Because I'm telling you, people don't want to live, okay? People don't want to live with homeless folks all over the sidewalk. They don't want to live in a city that's got refuse all over because there's no city services.
Right.
That's not the way that real ordinary people think. The church was the primary conduit for doling out charitable services, and my position has always been that if the market is allowed to work and you're not beating people up with a heavy hand of government and a heavy hand of regulation, it'll work just like it did. That you'll have these services that you care that normal real people care about. Mm-hmm. You'll have it taken care of. It was before, and it would be today. So there's this. It's not like you're either this corporate greed, I want a monopoly, or you're a far left wing, we need to give people universal basic income. Most people are somewhere in the middle that's
right.
reasonable.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. Any comments?
That's it? Nope.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
Life is just a game, we're all just the same. controversy.